This is my coffee oil. And to this, I'm going to add my coconut oil. Now, when you first start making anything, any products, you should probably, not mix them together. Over here, I've got my butters. I've got my homemade coffee butter with cocoa butter, mango butter. I've got my 4 emulsifiers. And I have my coffee over here, and I'm going to add sugar and salt to that for exfoliant. So I just put in like the same amount of melted coconut oil. And you can see it really didn't change the color of the coffee. I see a coffee ground that must have been left over from the infusion, so we got to get rid of that. Don't freak out when you make infused oils if you have some plant product or some coffee or whatever it was you infused hanging around. It's pretty normal, but when I'm making a scrub or something, I like to get rid of it. So you can see that even though I put in the same amount of coconut oil, I still have a lot of really great coffee colored oil. Now this is powdered caffeine. I apologize for the landscapers outside. I can't do anything about them. And I've got my ingredients going. My kitchen is sanitized, so I really have to keep going with this. But this is powdered caffeine. Now you don't need this in a coffee scrub. I've seen plenty of DIY coffee scrubs on the internet with just coconut oil and coffee grounds. I don't even know if the coffee grounds are fresh or not, but you should be. No matter how you're making your scrub, you should be using fresh coffee grounds. And the best thing to do is to grind them yourself so that they're very, very fresh. But this is powdered caffeine. There's not a lot of it. I have caffeine in the coffee grounds. I have coffee. These landscapers are driving me crazy. Anyway, I have coffee grounds. I have coffee oil. I have coffee butter. And I have a little bit of powdered caffeine. Now, you really don't need this. This isn't even showing up on the scale. But I like to have it. Now, and even if you didn't use coffee butter, which I know a lot of people find it very expensive, I made mine myself. It's still more expensive than, cocoa butter, but it's nice to have. So you don't have to use coffee oil, you don't have to use coffee butter, and you don't have to use powdered caffeine. But I would suggest that you use freshly ground coffee as one of your exfoliants. And I wouldn't use freshly ground coffee as the entire exfoliant, but I would make it a bigger percentage than I'm going to make here because I've got all the other caffeine products. I'm using it as like a third of my exfoliants. Okay, I want to let you know what I decided with the fragrance. I have here Fresh Brewed Coffee from Nature's Garden. It smells like fresh brewed coffee. It smells amazing. I also have a thing of cappuccino standing by, but that smells kind of synthetic. So there's a lot of really real coffee in this, and I don't want to ruin it with a synthetic scent. So I'm going to hold off on the cappuccino for now, but because I don't want bottles or anything like that hanging around while I make my product, I put a little bit in a stainless steel cup, and we'll see if we need it. But for now, it's like I'm going to put everything away and hope that I don't need to use the cappuccino. So my plan for this exfoliant was to use a third coffee, very fine coffee grounds, fresh coffee grounds, a third very fine Demerara sugar, and a third very fine Atlantic sea salt. Now the Demerara sugar seems to be a little more coarse than I thought it would be, even though it's labeled fine. So I put there's probably 25% of Demerara with, and I made up the difference between 25 and 33 with the sea salt, which is pretty fine. So right now that's the exfoliants that we have going. And now I'll finish cleaning up and getting our product going. Now, if you see my sanitation videos, you know that at this point everything has been washed down again with a bleach solution and alcohol. And now anything that's going to come into contact with this is getting alcohol. And when you have instruments like your thermometers, your scales, you know, I weigh everything out ahead of time so that I don't have a lot of contact. My products don't have a lot of contact with something, you know, that's used over and over again, like the scale. But the scale gets alcoholed, gets washed with bleach solution and alcohol before it ever gets, you know, anything on it. And then there's a paper towel between it, even though it's been washed with the bleach solution and alcoholed. It has, it still has a paper towel on top of it. Now what I'm doing right now, away from the camera, is I'm alcoholing one of my thermometers. I like to use 2 thermometers because I find that sometimes one just goes fluky. So I'm alcoholing this. These are pretty sturdy. The infrared thermometers, I mean, sometimes they just stop working. It could be because I doused them in alcohol. But it's probably better to put alcohol on the towel and then do it. But you want everything to be as clean as you can possibly get it. So I alcohol everything before it goes back on the counter. Now the second thing that I do is I have to alcohol my spatulas and my whisks. But the second thing that I do, and I've done a poor job of showing this in other videos because I've got too many things in my head going on, but what I do in making my products, when I'm not making a video, I'm not doing anything, is this is alcoholed. And like I said, when I alcohol my appliances, I put a paper towel on it, and when I'm alcoholing things to go back onto the product counter, I alcohol it. Now I've seen people say, well, I alcoholed everything. Well, you want to be able to see that that's true and that that happens. And these come apart, and you should always wash them apart so that both parts, because otherwise bacteria is going to grow underneath. And you can see that that was an attempt of mine. It doesn't come like that. I put it in boiling water, and that's why it looks like that. But you want to make sure that you are alcoholing everything before it's ever touching your new products. I mean, you just have to do this stuff. And, you know, there's some people that I really love. I love their videos. But, you know, the sanitation is questionable to me when I see, you know, I love animals. I love kids. When I see animals and kids in videos, I had one night where I made myself a muscle balm, very strong muscle balm, and my cat walked through. My cat's never been on a counter a day in her life. She's just never, ever, ever been on a counter. I just don't believe in it. And she was trained from very, very little. And she's never been on a counter a day in her life, but she walked through the room while I was making product, and I was only making it for myself. If I was making it for a customer, I'm not sure I would have sold it. And some people will think that's ridiculous, but that's just the way I am. And if you think that's ridiculous, you know, whatever. I'm not exactly going to cry about that. Now the next thing that has to happen is I have to add my jojoba oil, my vitamin E, and my preservative. Now, it's at 192. There's no preservative on the face of the earth that would be cool enough for, let alone Optifen. I could have put jojoba oil in here, but I like to put my vitamin E, jojoba oil, and preservative all in at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into the freezer. Let it cool down. Now there's no shea butter in this, so I didn't temper anything. If I had shea butter, I would have wanted to have tempered it. So right now I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it in the freezer. I'm going to cover it with a little bit of plastic wrap. I'm going to put it in the freezer, and I'm going to bring the temperature down to about 118 before I add anything else. I've talked about the fact that I like to use bale jars because even though they're expensive, I find that people don't throw them out, which makes them environmentally friendly. And a lot of times these colored jars that I have them in purple, have them blue, have them in green, have them in amber. A lot of times they don't throw those out either, so I'll use those plastic ones. Now these plastic ones over here are ones I don't like to use a lot, but I do offer them. They're fairly economical, and the little ones I use for samples. So I'm not going to put any of this in paper because of the amount of caffeine that's in this. I think that it might eat through the paper. I don't know. We'll have to see. Now I'm going to put this, and this is, well, there's no smell, so that's my Optifen and my vitamin E and my jojoba oil, which was all mixed together. And mixing the Optifen with the jojoba oil and vitamin E helps disperse it, and it's really important that you mix it really well at this point. It's really important that this preservative get mixed really well. Hang on a second. I'm a lunatic about sanitation, and you could do all the sanitation in the world, but if your preservative has been compromised in some way, either by temperature, or you didn't mix it correctly, or you use some other product that has rendered it useless, and you could run into some of that. I'll do other videos on that. You're going to have a wasted product. Now I'm going to say this at the beginning of this video, and I'm going to say it in annotations, but unless your scrubs are a mainstay of your business, which it is of mine, which is why I'm using the coffee oil that I made, the coffee butter that I made, the coffee grounds that I paid a lot of money for and ground myself just this morning, and the powdered caffeine. Unless you have scrubs as the mainstay of your business, you really don't have to put these very expensive ingredients in a scrub like a coffee scrub. You could use regular oils. I would suggest coconut oil and sweet almond oil. For butters, I would suggest shea butter, mango butter, and cocoa butter, or just cocoa and shea, but make sure you temper the shea because the shea really needs to be tempered, otherwise it could be grainy. It's less a problem in a scrub, but if you make a coffee cream, coffee lotion to go with this, which I'm going to do, you really want to have it. So right now I'm prepping my area for the final product. Now, as I've shown you in my sanitation videos, I've gone over everything, all these counters with a bleach solution and alcohol. Now my mixer has been alcohol like 3 or 4 different times. The bowl has been in a bleach solution, but I'm going to alcohol it again before the product goes. Now I'm going to cover this. I'm going to alcohol everything right here before covering it up. And I'm going to try to keep everything away from here as I can, because my finished product is, this is my last chance to get this, to make sure that there's nothing introduced to this. So if you don't do this final step, all the steps that you've done before, it's kind of wasted. So I'm going to alcohol my bowl, and I'm going to alcohol my mixer thing. And if you've got 2 mixer blades, do both of them. And now I drop down on the floor. So I have a pot of boiling water with a little bit of bleach in it. I'm going to dip this in, and then I'm going to re-alcohol it. Be right back. So this is what I've used to, got a little bit of bleach solution in it. So I'm just going to mix that up because it just fell on the floor. I'm going to dry it off, and then I'm going to alcohol it again. And cooking is a hobby of mine, and I love it, but putting the bowl on the lock is ridiculous to me. And the KitchenAid is too powerful really for you to hold it while it beats. So like I said, I would not use a KitchenAid for these products. The KitchenAid is also incredibly heavy. It's always hard for me to move it. So I'm trying to get it into position so that you can see it and I can work with it. Okay, so I took this out. I alcoholed my whisk before I put it back in. And it's kind of gloppy. You want it to be pudding-like. This is pretty pudding-like. This is not a lot of product. This is about, I don't know, 25% of what I normally make, but it's for a tutorial. So you want to put it in your mixer. Okay, sorry. You want to put it in your mixer. And before you use any of your implements, you want to make sure that they're alcoholed again. Now, I think I didn't use this spatula since I alcoholed it, but I can't be sure. So I'm going to alcohol it again. All I got to do is find alcohol. It's in this thing. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to... Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot. Now, I'm going to put the KitchenAid back a little bit. I really think that this is not the optimal machine for small businesses that make skincare products. So, if you're thinking about buying one for your business, I would say don't. I would say get one that has a double beater, because even on the lowest setting, you cannot hold the bowl. I can't. And it's almost impossible to switch it off while you're holding the bowl. It's crazy. I've almost broken my arm off trying to do it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in. And you want to try to leave it in the freezer as long as you can, because, you know, again, with, you know, introducing new things, you don't want to keep bringing it in and out. Every time you do, you know, there's a possibility of introducing new cooties. So right now I'm going to change my glove while that's going around, because I need a new pair of gloves. Now this is a gorgeous color. It smells like coffee, but I think that I'm going to add the fragrance at this point. And you could add the fragrance much earlier, but I really wanted to know what I was doing, so I'm going to put that in there. And that should, oh, that smells so nice. It smells, this is Fresh Brewed Coffee by Nature's Garden, and it smells just like Fresh Brewed Coffee. If you didn't have the coffee butter or the coffee oil in this like I do, your product would still smell so much like coffee. My hands have gotten so wet that I'm having trouble putting gloves on. But, okay, I'm going to put in some coffee. I don't want to put in too much, I really think that I overestimated the amount of exfoliant that I need. Now when you do this in any scrub, it's going to get much thicker. And one thing that I noticed on some of the coffee scrubs that I saw that were just coconut oil and coffee beans was they were all really dark. And I hoped to avoid that, but I just made it very dark with the coffee beans. So now, if I turn this up, I'm going to basically liquefy this. And one of the things that you have to do when you do this, especially if you do it with a mixer that is pretty powerful, is you really have to kind of gauge your mixing. 'Cause you want it mixed, of course, but you don't want it to turn back to liquid. And you don't want to, you know, keep putting it in and out of the freezer. So you can, you know what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take a piece of paper and I think I'm going to put it over this bowl and put it back in the freezer for a bit, see what happens. Now if you look at that, it's still pretty drippy. You don't want it that drippy in a scrub. Oh, I hate KitchenAid bowl things. Getting thrown out. All right. I think what I'm going to do is staple. Let's go. Yeah, but I'll tell you, I'm not buying. here. Now, if you were making this and you said, you know what, I don't like the way this came out. I mean, it's going to firm up, it's going to get, more solid. But if you say, I don't like this, it just seems like too icky, you could just make another base of your 226 grams of product. And make sure that, you put the preservative in again, because the preservative that's in here now isn't going to hold up 226 more grams of product. But what you would do is you would just add that product to this. You might, forego the coffee butter, the coffee oil. You might say, okay, it's too dark, I don't like it, I want it lighter. Most of the coffee scrubs that I've seen, the DIY, where they're just doing coconut oil and coffee grounds, they look like this. And this is a much nicer, and it's going to firm up much nicer. But if for some reason you thought that you want it lighter, and I have a feeling this is going to go lighter, you could just make a second batch. Make sure you put in your preservative. You might not have to put your fragrance in, and just add it. Don't waste it. Now I see a lot of little flecks that looks like it could be mango butter re-solidifying, which normally mango butter doesn't do this. I've been having some weird issues with butters lately. I thought it was the shea butter, and I've started taking shea out of a lot of my formulas. But now I seem to be getting these little flecks again. And I'm going to wait for this to solidify a little more. I'm not that crazy about either the color or the texture of this. So I'm going to let it cool down because it's hard to judge it at this point. And if I have to doctor it, that'll be interesting for you to see. So see you then. Okay, it's been another 15 minutes, and I actually think that it's starting to be something that I think I could really like having. And what I would do the next time is I would probably add less coffee exfoliant. But I like it now that it's getting cooler and thicker. But I'm going to continue to let this mix on very low, and then I'll show you what it looks like before I jar it. I really have to clean up this place before I pull out any of my sanitized jars and, re-alcohol them. So I'm going to let this go for a while longer. So what I've done is I have wiped out all of my jars with bleach solution and dried them, and now I'm going to alcohol them. And I don't know how many of these I'm going to get. And I don't know what my end product, when I have a really good product, I'll use mostly my bale jars. I don't know what this is going to net. I don't know what this is going to be like. So I'm going to use some of the ones that are my least favorites. and, you know, maybe use them, maybe not. I'm going to put this there. Now this was in a bleach solution. And I'll tell you, if you think that you've cleaned everything as much as it could be cleaned, something just sort of floated into this. And I put them upside down after I put, you know, after I rinse them out with the bleach solution, and something still floated into this somehow. I don't even know how. Let's find a cap to that. Oh, here's the cap. So I'm going to alcohol the bottles and the caps, and I don't know how many I'm going to use, but I'm going to make sure that all the ones that are right here are alcoholed. You see there's some smuts on the outside of this. I don't even know how that happened. You know, I've been pretty careful with everything. But this is, you know, what you have to realize when you're doing your sanitation is that, you know, things just sort of happen, and you've got to be alcoholing and, you know, making sure everything is, you know, just as sanitary as possible. Now this is my spoon that I'm going to use to put my product in my jar, and this gets alcoholed a few different times. I'm going to make sure my gloves are alcoholed. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to re-alcohol that tip of my glove. Now see, that looks pretty good. That looks pudding-y. Let's see what it looks like in there. That looks pretty cool. Okay, so going to remove the bowl from the KitchenAid from hell. Now if you're in the US, remember to turn your scale back to ounces. I mean, I like to use metric and get used to it, you know, how many ounces is this, but, you know, rather than sit here and play around all day. So this is 4.4 ounces. And later on we'll do all the calculations we need to do. So I have some little coffee cup melt and pours that I want to put into these. So I think for now, this is 5.2 ounces. I'm going to put that in my book. And this is another reason why videotaping is good, because I know that this is like an 8-ounce jar, or that's what it's advertised as. But I'm going to put 5.2 product in it. I also have to put my time end. Remember, like way back when we started, we put the time start. Maybe I didn't do that on camera. Okay, so, but we have to figure out the direct cost of the labor. So I'm going to do 5.2. Actually, let me do 5.5 because that would be much easier to figure out. 5.5 on the nose. Okay, it's the next day, and I have my coffee scrub. As you can see, it looks nice, and I have, this is a basic scrub that I've given you the basic scrub recipe to. It has no actives in it. It doesn't contain anything weird. In fact, I'll put the recipe up now. I have my pumpkin scrub. These are all samples. This is the pumpkin scrub recipe. I did a video. I'm not sure if it's up yet. Sometimes I do videos and part of them go awry. So they don't actually get to the YouTube channel. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you this. I'm going to use one hand to one glove. The reason for that is sometimes it's easier to see what it's doing. Now, first of all, it smells amazing. If you make any kind of coffee soap or coffee scented product, oh my goodness, that smells amazing. Now there's coffee oil, coffee butter, and fresh coffee grounds. Well, not grounds, but so that's how it looks on my skin. And that's how it looks on the glove. Now, the reason I do it with the glove is because I want to show you how the other ones work. And sometimes, if you know, like my skin right now is so soft just from that little bit of coffee. It's so soft. That's amazing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a new glove on the opposite hand and see if I can do one of the other ones and see if I could tell the difference. The purpose of the coffee scrub is it has caffeine, so it reduces bloating. So this is see it on the glove. This is my regular basic scrub. It's a recipe I've given you guys. It's amazing. I love it. It's a great seller. It's always been a great seller. I'm going to put it on my hand and wipe it off both my hand and my gloves. Now I'm going to try them both. The coffee one is a little softer, just a little. But there's a lot more expensive ingredients in the coffee. You know, and if scrubs are not the mainstay of your business, like I've said a few times in this video, you don't have to go crazy with those expensive ingredients. I just want to try the pumpkin on both. I love the pumpkin. The pumpkin is another expensive one. It's got pumpkin butter, pumpkin seed oil. It's got pumpkin flakes, which is an expensive, it's more expensive than the ground coffee. That's nice too. So I would say in terms of premium, they go according to their price. The basic scrub, really nice, has a lot of good ingredients in it. You know, cocoa butter, shea butter, really nice oils. It does have infused oils because all my products do. The pumpkin, little higher end, has pumpkin oil, pumpkin butter, pumpkin flakes, and infused oils. And the coffee is, I just want to do that again just to show you. My hands are all wet, so I'm having trouble opening it. So let me show you one more time. That's the coffee. Wish I had some cellulite to check this out on. That might not make it onto YouTube. I might have to go on another rated channel. Okay, so it feels just really nice. Really, really soft. Very, very soft. You probably can't tell, but it's really, really soft. Very nice, very successful. So if you like that recipe, like I said, if you're a soap company and scrubs are not your main line of business, it's expensive stuff to be putting in there. I would put, you know, instead of coffee butter, I put regular, you know, shea butter. Instead of, you know, my infused coffee oil, I would put, you know, I would put macadamia nut oil, avocado oil, you know, any nice light oil like that. For the coffee exfoliants, I would keep the coffee grounds. This, I paid a lot of money for the coffee that's in here, and I ground it myself. You might be able to get away with less expensive coffee, but the scent is Fresh Brewed Coffee from Nature's Garden, and it's amazing. So that is our successful coffee scrub. Thank you for joining me, and happy scrubbing.